But we're going to talk about other losers, or as producer Stryker calls it, the Chicago Bears block, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, Rick, I'm going to start with you and your loser. First up, Kelee Ringo, the cornerback out of Georgia. Coming into the season, he was cornerback one early on in the mock draft process in September, October. He was often the first cornerback off the board. Not only did he not go in the first 31 picks, he did not go on day two, second or third round. What has happened to Kelee Ringo? Why is he still available?
You know, I think everybody is scratching their head right now on why he's still on the board. And he's, what, 6'2", 6'3"?
4'3".
4'3", 40. Ideal size corner that you're looking for, but you watched him on tape this year, he struggled in my opinion. He's grabby down the field, he was inconsistent locating the ball. All of a sudden he didn't look like he had much instinct to locate the ball in the air. And the other thing that was disappointing, when you have this type of size, you have this type of speed, you should be able to knock people's heads off. And I didn't see him do that. He needs to be more physical, because some teams even said that if he's that size and has that speed, maybe we move him to safety. But he has to go to a system, and someone will take him tomorrow and probably going to get a steal in this draft, because if you play him in press man coverage, you teach him how to disrupt the receiver, getting upfield into his route, they're going to get a heck of a football player.
Let me ask you a general question, and I don't know what his test scores were at Kelee Ringo, but you've said before on the podcast you don't have to necessarily be a rocket scientist to play cornerback, right?
In fact, we really emphasize that the less intelligence when you played corner, that proved out to be the more productive corner, because they have short-term memories, right. And if they do get beat, they can just bounce back and let's go again. But the closer you get to the ball from our analytics department, the more you had to score higher on those intelligence tests. So I don't know what his test scores were. I think he's good enough to still play corner. Okay. Someone needs to just take him as a project, work with him, and if you hit on him and you can get his technique down, you may get a shutdown corner in the NFL.
And it's crazy to think that we're saying you might get lucky on day 3 with Kelee Ringo, when 4 months ago he was a top 15 pick potentially. All right, your other loser, and I'll provide the nuance here because Joey Porter Jr. certainly isn't a loser. He went 32nd overall. Any other year, had the Dolphins not been cheating, he would be getting first-round money and the potential for a 5-year contract with that 5th-year option. Instead, he's getting second-round money. So why, in your eyes, Rick, is he a potential loser?
Well, he's a loser one way, but he's also kind of a winner in another way. A loser, when you look at all the contracts in the first round last year, from pick 1 to pick 32, all of them were fully guaranteed contracts. Now, there was a significance in the size of the contract. I believe Tavon Walker got somewhere in the $32 to $33 million range or more guaranteed. It dropped all the way down to just $6 million a year guaranteed at pick 32. Why this may be a benefit to him is because he does not have that 5th-year option. So if he comes in there, lights it up, he doesn't have a fully guaranteed contract, but he also doesn't have that 5th-year option. So he may end up being a winner in this in the end. Right now, he's a loser because he lost all that guaranteed money.
Right. Good news, though, he's going to Pittsburgh, where his dad played for a long time, won 2 Super Bowls, 1 Super Bowl, excuse me. So that's the development in the right direction. Also be learning from Pat Peterson, who just signed with the Steelers. So that's fun. Now, I have some losers. They're not individuals. They're drafts that make me scratch my head a little bit. And typically, at this point, you hit on a couple guys. But I'm going to start with the Chicago Bears because they traded down from 9.
Is that why Russo left?
Musso left because he's a Bears fan and he didn't want to hear this, and he heard it for the last 8 hours, so I understand that. But they traded down from 9 to 10 to get Darnell Wright. Love that decision, but that meant they were moving off of Jalen Carter. Fair enough. That means they weren't in on Jalen Carter. But then at pick 53, Rick, they get Gervon Dexter out of Florida. And we've talked about him during the course of the evening, how he has first-round potential, but it just didn't show up play after play. And if you don't have that focus, why not just stay put at 9 and take Jalen Carter, as you mentioned, one of the best, if not the best, player in this class when he's locked in. Then at 56, they get Tyreek Stevenson, a cornerback who at 6'0", 198 looks the part. He didn't play the part, and you mentioned this, and I watched the same game, the UNC game. It looked like he'd been playing football for about 15 minutes. Now, there are other...
Can I give you another term that we used to use?
Yeah, please.
it looked like he was born on Wednesday and looking both ways for the weekend.
Yes.
Which means he's very confused when he's out on the field.
But physically,
Do you
he
get
has
that?
it.
Is that kind of funny?
No, it's a good one. Whew. The issue is that it's not clear to me what they're doing. Why not take Jalen Carter, and I mentioned to you, Tyler Steen, the Alabama player that you just talked about, as opposed to flip-flopping and going with Darnell Wright and Gervon Dexter, and you get equal, if not better talent, and possibly the best player in the draft?
Yeah, they have,
Good question.
yeah, very good question.
Fair enough.
You finally made a point on this podcast, first time in how many shows have we done?
45.
45 shows.
1 out of 45 ain't bad. So you have no explanation for it. Let me put it this way. If you're a team watching the draft unfold and you're in that division or in that conference, are you thinking, I'm okay with what they're doing right now?
Well, I never judge because you don't know till 3 years. So
Okay.
I'm not going to judge. Right now on paper, it doesn't look good, but
Yeah.
we talked about New England last year when they took Cole Strange, and it's like, why are they taking a guard from Tennessee where they can get in third, fourth round? He actually ended up playing pretty good for him and ended up starting for him, and he's going to be a good football player. So it's quick to judge what we have to do now in the media.
Yeah.
But wait till 3 years and see if this is truly a bad draft or not.
Fun fact, I had a second-round grade on Cole Strange. You can believe that or not.
I don't.
Fair enough. All right, my other loser, and this is one that speaks to your point. You got to wait 2 or 3 years, and this team has lost very little in the last 5 or 6 years. Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, that's very interesting.
So here's the thing. Felix
Good thing you weren't out with me at the draft in KC.
No, yeah.
You would have got booed.
No. And as you and Pete Prisco like to say, I love everything, so I'd have loved everything about Kansas City. But here's my thinking, Rick. Felix Anudike-Uzomah was their first-round pick, bottom of round 1, the edge rusher out of Kansas.
Guy that I really liked, and we even talked about
Yeah.
it on a podcast or two ago, that I thought he may slip into the first round.
Yeah, and that you
Did I win $1 on that?
Unfortunately, you didn't make that bet, but you had been talking about him for quite a while, and you've talked about this before. He needs to play outside. He can't play reduced, and certainly the Chiefs understand that, but I wonder if they could have gotten more value, and we've heard rumors about teams wanting to trade up for a quarterback at the end of round 1. Maybe there's an opportunity to trade down and get more picks. Either way, then Rashee Rice at 55, and we both saw him at the Senior Bowl. He timed really well. He does not play that fast.
No.
And 6'1", 204, you're like, oh, I like that. And again, the lack of separation, the lack of play speed was a concern for me. Maybe the thinking is we have Patrick Mahomes, so it doesn't matter. But I felt like there were other better options, perhaps, even if they wanted to address that wide receiver position earlier in the draft with that first-round pick or trading down, perhaps to get that. Wanya Morris, I do like. We watched him play at the Senior Bowl. He got our attention.
He was quite a surprise for me. I didn't realize how athletic he was. I thought I saw it on tape. He almost looks like a left tackle athlete playing on the right side. Technically, he's got a ways to go yet, but when you watched him move in person down at the Senior Bowl, I thought he had a very, very good Senior Bowl week.
Yeah, and again, you talk about this all the time, Rick. This is why you like to see these guys in person, whether it's the Senior Bowl, other All-Star games, the
Pro
Combine,
days.
and of course the Pro Days where we did the old, with the first pick, Pro Day Tour, first annual. Hopefully next year we'll be going down to LA. That'll be fun. Before we go to break, and someone in my ear, I won't say who, said, make it clear that even though this was the Chicago Bears loser segment, they're grouped in with the Kansas City Chiefs. So one of the few times they'll be grouped in with winners until the season starts. No offense, Joe Musso.
I wouldn't go to Chicago or Kansas City if I were you for a while.